2.5 translations of the sine and cosine graphs. Okay, now you guys drew the graphs. You know what they look like. We're now going to start manipulating them. I have to tell you about all the parts. Okay, now the absolute worst that it could look like is this. Y equals A sine of K theta minus C plus D. That has everything you could possibly have involved in an equation for sine or cosine, which we can write pretty much exactly the same. Because when you drew the graphs, you should have realized they're the exact same wave. They're both sinusoidal waves with just a shift, sinusoidal. Okay? If you take the sine and shift it 90 degrees, you will have the cosine wave. They are pretty much the same. What are their parts?
Plus D.
Yes, plus D.
What? That's definitely
Okay. Amplitude. Okay. Amplitude. Absolute value of A. So the number out in front of the sine or cosine, take the absolute value of that, you have the amplitude. What does the amplitude mean as far as the graph is concerned? It's the height of the wave. All right? Period. Two pi over k. That k comes from the equation. Best way that I can describe the period is one pattern length. Okay, we talked about that when we drew the graphs. So this is the pattern or one period of the function. Okay, so we had a peak, we had a valley, and then we started over. That pattern is known as a period of the function. One pattern length is the best way to describe that. This one's not in the book, but I like to include it. It's k over 2 pi, the frequency. As you can see, it's simply the reciprocal of the period. Phase shift. Phase shift is C over K. That is a left or right shift. Now, I think there's an easier way to solve for phase shift. We have C over K, but if you look up here in the equation, notice where C and K are at. C and K are part of what's inside of the sine or cosine. If you set whatever is inside the parentheses, so K theta minus C, equal to 0. Whatever's inside that parentheses, equal to 0 and solve, you will get the phase shift. Solving for theta, you get C over K. So I think people screw up the phase shift because they don't remember to switch the C, the sign in front of C. It is K theta minus C. We're asking for C over K, so you have to switch the sign. This eliminates having to think about that. Put whatever's inside the parentheses equal to 0, solve it, and you have your phase shift. I think that's easier. And the last one is your vertical shift. Your vertical shift is equal to D. That's just your up or down shift. All right, let's take a look at an example. Find the amplitude, period, frequency, phase shift, and vertical shift. Of y equals 4 cosine of 1/2 theta minus pi minus 6. Okay, what's the amplitude? 4. Absolute value of A, or 4, which is 4. That is correct. Remember absolute value. What's period? Two pi over k. K is the number in front of theta, so it's 2 pi over 1/2, or 4 pi. That is correct. Complex fraction, flip multiply. Frequency is the reciprocal of that, so that'd be 1 over 4 pi. There's really no work for frequency. It's reciprocal of period. Phase shift. Again, I personally like to set whatever is inside of the parentheses equal to 0 and solve. You get 2 pi. Vertical shift. The last number, minus 6, down 6. Okay. So do you understand how to get the parts from the equation? Well, we're going to look at the second example then. Second example is I'm going to give you the parts. You give me the equation. Exact opposite of what we just did. Do we have any questions on this? Pretty straightforward. example. Write an equation of a sine function. Amplitude for period pi, phase shift negative pi over 8, and vertical shift of 6. All right, we need this. Y equals A sine of K theta minus C plus D. We need to find A, K, C, and D. We need to find all 4 of those letters. What do we know right now? We know a couple of these things immediately. D. D I like. D is your vertical shift of 6, so we know D. Okay, we'll keep that in mind. A. Yeah, now you got to be careful with A. The amplitude is actually the absolute value of A. So A could be 4, 4, negative 4. We're going to have to write 2 equations. One with the 4 out front, one with the negative 4 out front. How about, what would be next, K or C? What do you think would be easier with that? I think K. K deals with what? Period. 2 pi over K. We know our period is pi. So pi is 2 pi over K. If we cross multiply, we get K pi equals 2 pi. So K equals 2. What's left? C. Phase shift. C over K. Our phase shift is negative pi over 8. C we don't know. K we just found is 2. Can we solve that? Absolutely. Multiply by 2. We get negative 2 pi over 8 equals C, or negative pi over 4 equals C. So we have them all. Let's put it together. Y equals A. I'm going to do 4 first. 4 sine of K 2 theta minus C. Well, C is negative, so that's going to be what? Plus pi over 4 plus D. D is 6. Or Y equals negative 4 sine of 2 theta plus pi over 4 plus 6. So you could get one or the other because the amplitude could satisfy either one. Any questions? That's it. Pretty straightforward, I think. Now, actually, that's it. There's nothing else we even talked about.